Hi guys, Makashi here. Hope you're all doing well. So we've been delving back into the whole Radicoida mystery since Frontier kicked off the egg hunt back in HIP 87621. As I noted in my most recent update, my issue that was very heavily upvoted and had just recently entered the first page of all of the issues in the background of the game, was marked as a duplicate and linked to an old issue that's got very little traction or votes or anything on it. So I don't think there's much luck in us getting a hard response from Frontier as to whether the time travel we've evidenced at the Radicoidas is a bug or not. Although I obviously am of the opinion at this point that there's just no chance it's not a bug, right? And here's the reasons I'm just gonna surmise the reasons why I'd say it's not a bug. A, we've proven repeatedly with data from the files in the journals that it points to the 14th of August 3301, which was when a GalNet article was released talking about how Halsey had been abducted by aliens. At the time when that was released, it was insane. No one believed that was possible. Everyone thought she'd just died, like when Jax misjumped, and that was the end of it. Maybe that was around the other way. I can't recall exactly whether Jax had already gone. I think he might have. The point stands. It's pointing us to Halsey. It's saying this is about Halsey. At the same time, DW3 kicks off, and the lore of DW3 is about Halsey. She's the main protagonist that Andrew Gasper, etc., have picked up on. Now, I've been in a bit of a back and forth with these people, and I don't know what to make of it, right? So I'm going to share with you two posts that have been made. One was made by Andrew Gasper, like 40 minutes after he released the last entry to the Distant Worlds 3 narrative. Okay? And Andrew said the following. Because people were questioning, is the DW3 lore canon or not? As the DW3 lead author of the current Distant Worlds 3 storyline, please let me comment on this a bit, although it's not Raxler related in most ways. This is the quest to find Raxler thread that I've been contributing to now for nearly a decade. We decided long ago to have DW3 enveloped in a storyline and also decided to allude to certain loose ends from the old lore, which is the stuff that Drew Wager was working on before they released him from his contract. We then asked Frontier Developments if they were cool with using a few canon NPCs as background and possibly protagonist. This turned out to be Jasmina Halsey, who Drew and I believe is one of the more fascinating characters in ED lore. Frontier agreed, unless they do crazy things to her, but also made it clear they would regard the whole story as fan fiction and would not have it referenced in official GalNet articles, which we found very professional of them. I don't know if he's being a bit pointed there. I think he might be, because obviously they go back on that. In the next sentence, he contradicts himself, right? Now the beast becomes complicated. Yeah, because you're just lying here, I think, Andrew. Because canon isn't canon. I don't know what that means. Of course, Distant Worlds 3 is canonized by now, having found its way into various GalNet articles, which we mostly wrote and Frontier Developments edited accordingly. So how does that make sense? How does it make sense that in one sentence he says it's all fan fiction and it won't be mentioned in GalNet articles, and then in the next paragraph he accepts that they wrote GalNet articles? I just can't understand how people are like, yeah, no worries. We were very careful to navigate around the text so as to hint at our fan fiction events, but never really mentioned them. But for possibly some 8,000 players of the game, it became real, so it went into their personal canon. Now here's where it gets really conflicting for me. To enhance our fan fiction story, and by extension the whole expedition, Frontier was kind enough to seed a few wrecks across our route. They play a role in our story that will remain as persistent POIs in the game. So, let me get this straight. If you've read the Distant Worlds 3 lore, you know that they're talking about the Type 9, the Anaconda, and then the big wreckage site at Maris Omnia, where they ended up building Rainbow's End. That big wreckage site is the place that Halsey's Caspian appears, and then Halsey reappears out of Witch Space, having spoken to the construct. I'm just going to give you the spoilers about the DW3 lore. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go and read it. It's all there for you to read. Their descriptions are vague enough not to interfere with their policy on fanfiction, but of course the context is there for those who participated. Now, this is the bit that triggers me, this last sentence. Is this a problem, though? I don't think so. Canon isn't always IP only, but is constantly expanded by the fan base. Bang up for that. Agree. Love it. Love what they've written. Love the story. As long as Frontier's no-go areas like Raxler, the Dark Wheel, or the finer details of the fate of the Guardians and Fargoids aren't touched, both Frontier and the players can benefit from it. Okay, so then why did they publish this? Why did they publish this? This is what the game says about how the Guardians died. The surviving Guardians were then destroyed by artificially intelligent machines of their own creation. But then Andrew Gasper, 40-odd minutes before posting that in the Raxler thread, posted this. I don't understand. You say you decided to survive while the Guardians obliterated themselves. There are quite a few people who think you turned on them and destroyed them in the end. A misconception made by an underdeveloped, belligerent species. So what's true? Like, I can't work out what's true. And from what he said, I'm pretty sure this is BS. So I just want clarity. I just want to know, is the stuff that happened in the Distant Worlds 3 lore actually part of the game? I think that's a really straightforward thing to request. And I don't think it's reasonable the way that they're communicating about it. I think that this is completely contradictory. To say here that the agreement with Frontier was that there wouldn't be GalNet articles, and then admit that they wrote GalNet articles canonising the stuff that happened, is completely gaslighting, isn't it? That's saying one thing then doing the other. So I don't like this one bit. I don't like what's going on with this. It feels to me like there's a secret special group of people that are allowed to know what's going on. I feel really pushed out. Like, I was in the Children of Raxler with Andrew Gasper. He was one of the leaders of that group, and I was pushed out. They didn't tell me to leave. I chose to leave when he told me that my statement that Witch Space is a place with no time, he said that that was just nonsense. He said that no one else should entertain that idea. And then if you go into this story and search for Zero, look at this. Hyperspace exists in a zero-time continuum. Unconventional zero-time continuum. Isn't if a brilliant astronomer is right and hyperspace is indeed a zero-time medium. So I just don't know why he said that. He said that I was wrong, that no one should look into the radicoiders, there's no temporal element, and then they ended up releasing a story that explains exactly what I predicted back in January and February in my videos. So guys, I don't know what this means. I don't know why they're doing this. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see who benefits from them just saying one thing and doing another. And I don't think it's acceptable. I think that we need the players to say, tell us straight now, what is going on? Because how are we ever going to make progress on these mysteries without actual clear, like, dissemination of what is real, or delineation, sorry, of what is in the game and real and what isn't? Yeah, it's crazy. So that's my 2 cents. I really hope that we get to the bottom of this. We're continuing to do science into the radicoiders to try and work out what's going on now that they're blooming. My previous assertion stands. I believe that now that they have developed to this stage, the actual sites in time will start to expand, or new sites will appear. I'm not sure. And my supposition, or my prediction, my hypothesis, is that just like the anti-Guardian field started based on an instance and then spread to the whole system, the time skip currently is invoked when you go down into the instance of the radicoider, and eventually it will expand to just being when you jump into the system, you time skip. And the reason for that is I believe the time skip bubble will grow to encapsulate the entire bubble. That's just my 2 cents. I could be completely wrong. Thank you for the sub. If anybody else wants to come by and check out the science, please do come over to the stream. I'm live quite a bit now at the weekends. I'm no longer streaming full time during the week, but I'll be live Friday to Sunday, all weekends. And yeah, 07 Commanders, Godspeed.